In this week's video, I'll be showing you guys my new Norco Range Enduro bike. I've had this bike for about 4 weeks now, and I think I've gotten used to it enough to give you guys a full review. This bike is the standard 2019 Range C3, but the bike says C4 on it. I actually don't know why, but I think it's because of the color. So first I'll tell you guys some basics about this bike before we get into the actual review. So I bought this bike in a size medium, and it actually feels a lot bigger than the size medium on my Trek. This doesn't really matter that much because they're two completely different type of bikes, but still, that's just something I noticed. I got this bike at a place in Redmond called Element Cycles, and they gave me a pretty good deal on it. There was this guy, a previous owner, who only had this bike brand new for about 90 minutes, and he only rode it once and didn't like it, so he returned it. That's why I got a good deal. If you look on Norco's website, you'll see that this bike sells for $4,400 without tax. Alright, so now let's jump straight into the actual review of the bike. So first things first, this bike is obviously carbon, but everything is carbon except for one thing, and that one thing is the chainstay. I found that kind of weird that they did that and didn't just make everything carbon, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. Now perhaps the first thing that I noticed when I was riding this bike, besides how light it was, is that it handles very well on pretty much everything. Now before buying this, I heard that it was very good on technical lines, so I tried it on Braveheart first. It handled very well and it felt like the bike did all the work. After riding it on Braveheart a few times, I tried it on the jumps, and once I got used to that, it was taking me no time to hit these big jumps on Flying Squirrel, and even when I nose case them or even land really badly, the suspension really does a nice job of absorbing everything. So let's now talk about the front fork. It's a RockShox Yari with 170 millimeters of travel on this bike, and if you get a 27.5-inch wheel, it's 180. I actually prefer the 29-inch wheels just because it's easier to control for me. The Yari does a very nice job of absorbing the landings of big jumps like Flying Squirrel or Paramount, and it also does a really nice job being very active on technical trails. Moving on to the rear shock, this is a Fox Float Factory DPX2. The one on my bike has 160 millimeters of travel, and it can be adjusted to different settings along with rebound changes. I really like the adjustment settings on the Fox DPX2, and it's really smooth when you're landing jumps and riding through tech lines. Overall, the fork and shock both do a really nice job on everything. With the shifting on the Norco Range, you won't be having trouble shifting like on some other bikes. This is a SRAM NX Eagle 12-speed drivetrain, and I can't complain. This bike has the exact same setup as my Trek, and that's why I'm used to it, so I like it a lot. I haven't had any problems with the shifting, and my chain actually hasn't come off at all since I've had this. Most of this, why my chain doesn't come off, is because of my front chainring. It's staggered so that every tooth alternates the width so that it'll guarantee your chain will stay on. If you don't know, I really like Raceface Chester pedals. I've had them on all 3 of my bikes since I've started mountain biking, and I just feel like they're very grippy with everything I ride. The front tire on this bike is a Maxxis Minion DHF 2.5-inch width, and the rear tire is a Maxxis Minion DHR2 with 2.4-inch width. The grips on this bike are the standard Norco lock-on grips, and the handlebar is also Norco standard. This bike has very wide bars, and I really like that. This bike does come with a dropper post, and that's a Trans-X Stealth, same as the Norco Fluid that I have. The brakes on this bike are SRAM 4-piston hydraulic disc brakes, and they're the SRAM guides. This time I actually know what I'm talking about, and they actually are 4-piston. If you watch my Trek review, you would know that I said that it was 4-piston, but it's actually not. So overall, this bike is a really good deal because you get a bunch of high-end components for a really low price for those components. I would definitely recommend this bike to a friend because of how well it handles. Now, before we end the video, I'll show you the bike in action.